So now let's go ahead and look at what your erosion is going to be like. When we were solving dilation, what we were doing is we were taking the structuring element here, that is 1110, placing it, let's say, over here. Okay, so when we were placing it, even if there was one element here which was matching with the element in the structuring element, we were considering it to be a match and we were changing the value and writing 1 over here. So now what is happening here is basically from this entire window, where in this window we had zeros as well as 1, I was taking 1, which happens to be the maximum element from the entire window. In erosion, we are going to do the exact opposite. From the structuring element B, which is the same as it was for your dilation question, 1111, with this one being your main element. For solving erosion, we are going to be considering the minimum element in the window. Okay, so let's get started with the question. Let's see how it goes. So we have the same question as we did in your dilation question. So a 10 by 10 image with black background and white block in the center. So this is going to be its binary representation. If you have not already watched the dilation video, I would highly recommend for you to go through it, just so that you will have 2 of the main operations for your image morphology done. So okay, let's come back to erosion now. What I am going to do is we are dealing with the first row again. So first row is entirely zeros, there's no 1, so I'm just going to write them down as all 10 zeros. So for the second row is where you have to pay attention. So the second row, 1 is giving me a 0. We move over here, this one has a 1 in it, but as I mentioned earlier, in erosion we are dealing with the minimum value of the window. So even when your structuring element comes over here, it sits down and it's placing 1 1 1 1, but because there is no match, so it is going to take this 0, and that 0 is going to be your answer. Now the structuring element comes on to this part over here. Again, it looks and it's spotting the 1 here, but because this is erosion, we are trying to decompress it. Okay, so if you can see, there are only these 4 zeros over here, so our final output needs to have more than the 4 zeros which are present in the center. In dilation, what we have done is we have compressed our answer. So as you can see, we were having here 4 zeros in the center, but after compressing the image, we just have 1 single 0 over here. So dilation is the exact opposite of erosion. Here we were performing compression, here we are going to be performing decompression. So we are basically going to expand our image, but it's still going to remain 10 cross 10 only. So here that means that this entire row again is going to give you a 0. Now we move on to the third row over here. So this third row again has all zeros for the first window, so I'm going to write them down here. This is a 0. Next we move over here. Again I can write them down as all zeros because we have the minimum 0 present, so that is a 0. Now we come over here. If you can see this one, all of them are 1s, so there is no 0 present. So as soon as the structuring element comes here, it knows that it has to perform erosion. It is going to look for a 0 because this is a binary image representation, so it is going to be either 0 or 1. 0 is going to be the minimum, it is going to represent the black color. Okay, but when it comes over here, it is looking for a 0. There are no zeros to be found, there is only 1s present. So that means over here your output in the image, in the eroded image, is going to be 1 over here. So now we were done with the first one. This we got done with this one, which gave us this one. We came here, it gave us this one. We came over here, it gave us this one. We came over here, it gave us this one. Now we come over here. Now the structuring element is able to find the minimum 0, so this is going to give you a 0. Then again the structuring element comes over here, it looks there are only 0, so it is going to be a 0. The structuring element comes over here, this is also going to give us a 0. So now we move on to the next part over here. Again we come here, this is going to give us a 0. Then we come over here, this is also going to give us a 0. Then we come over here, this is going to give us a 1, right? So we write down 1 here. then we come over here, this is going to give us a 0, and the neighbor to that will also give us a 0. We come over here, this will also give us a 0. Then we come over here, this will have to give us a 1 because there is no minimum in that window. Then we come over here, this will give us a 0. Then we come over here, this will also give us a 0. And then we come on to the last, this also gives us a 0. So this image is entirely symmetric. This will actually save up a lot of your time. So it is symmetric about this over here. So the first 5 rows, if you have gotten the first 5 rows, you can easily just replicate it as it is. This is not entirely true when you're talking about your erosion. Okay, you can follow the same thing here for dilation. It works just fine. Just you have to make sure that the last rows are going to be 0. Except for that, everything is exactly the replica. Over here in erosion, that does not happen. So let's just move on. We have completed the 4 rows. We are on to the 5th row. So that is going to be this row here, right? So that is going to give you a 0. Then it's going to give you a 0 again. Then this is going to give you a 1. Then this is going to give you a 0. Then this is going to give you a 0. Then this will give you a 0. Then you come over here, this will give you a 1. Then you come over here, this will give you 0, 0 and 0. So now that we are done with this column, we move on to the next row. This is the next row. So again, that is a 0.
Then the next one is going to give you a 0. The next one would be a 1. Then this part over here again gives you a 0. Then the neighbor would give you a 0. The neighbor would give you a 0. Then this one would give you a 1. Then again 0, 0 and 0.
Right, so we are halfway through. Now we move on to this row over here. So that is going to give you a 0.
Then you move to this part, again a 0. Then you move to this part, that's a 1. Then this part, 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 a 1. 0, 0, 0.
So we are done with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we are moving on to the 8th row. So that is going to be this row here. So that is going to give you a 0.
Then we have this table here, which also will give you a 0.
Because see, so now if there are 1s and below the 1, if you have a 0. So here in this case, you see it has 1s, but below the 1s you have 0. And if you are solving the problem of erosion, all of the answers in that particular row is going to be 0. If I were to consider this window, so the minimum, you already have the minimum element as 0 over here. So the structuring element while performing erosion is not even going to look at 1. The answer is going to be 0. Right? So for this entire block, we just write the value as 0. And then for the next 2 rows also it's going to be 0, because for this row, below it is 0. So again, the minimum here is going to be 0. So that is why the entire row is completely 0. Okay, and then of course when you're talking about the last row, which is this row over here, because there is no element below, we consider it to be 0, and so your image gets completed like this. Okay, so we were able to expand the portion here. Right, so instead of there just being 2 by 2 0, we were having 3 by 3 0 over here. So this is basically you are decompressing the image. This is erosion, which is represented like so. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you all understood the video, and if you have any doubts, please don't forget to write them down in the comment section. I would try to help you all as soon as possible. That is it. Bye.